Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Hello. How are you? I hope you're well. Now this week I'm going to attempt the impossible, and I'm going to talk about the founder, or one of the founders of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, who isn't in the news that much, but recently, the reason I even attempted to do this was I was watching an interview with Bernie Sanders, and he was talking about how the three richest men in the world were at the Trump's inauguration. So those three people are... So just for some context, Bernie Sanders is an American. He's a American politician and activist. He's a senior United States senator. And what I watched was a speech that he made in their version of Parliament. So I won't put the link to the video. I'll put the link to the transcript of it, because in the transcript he says, because otherwise I'll never be able to get it from the video, it said, several weeks ago, Donald Trump was inaugurated for his second term as President of the United States. Standing right behind him were the three richest men in the country, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, worth a combined $920 billion. These three men have more wealth than the bottom half of America, 170 million people. And I should point out that this should tell you exactly where we are going as a nation. These three men have become some $232 billion richer since Trump was elected. In just 2 weeks under Trump, their wealth has exploded by $232 billion. I don't need to read all the rest of it to you, because you'll get the point that I'm making, that one of the people we're going to be talking about, which is Mark Zuckerberg, is pretty well off, and it's just sort of what they call an obscene amount of wealth. Nobody could possibly need that amount of money. Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Mark Zuckerberg's date of birth and location of birth is available all over the place. On Astro Data Bank, they do the chart as no houses and just the signs of the zodiac. So I was going to share that chart, and then I thought, oh no, I'm going to go a little bit further in my investigations. And he is now married to a lady called Priscilla Chan, whose chart I'm going to share. She's a sun sign Pisces, moon sign Aries, and her date and time of birth is located on her birth certificate. And the person that got that information is called... So on Astro Data Bank, there is like where you get your information from, you have to put this, it's called source notes. They have it at the bottom of the page, and it says craft quotes BC, which is birth certificate, requested by Cy Schofield. So Cy Schofield has actually, over the years, accumulated a hell of a lot of birth data and birth things. He asks for them. And then it says on their Wikipedia gives birthplaces Braintree MA, but the birth certificate says Quincy MA. So we have her chart, and that's a starting point. We've got Mark Zuckerberg's date of birth, and I say location, but we don't have a time. So then I carried on investigating, and they met originally while they were both at Harvard University. And if you remember the story about Mark Zuckerberg, if you've ever even investigated it, that he started creating Facebook while he was at university. And in an interview that she gave, this is Priscilla now, the missus, she said she probably wouldn't have got a second date out of him, because when they met for the first date, he suggested a time or whatever, and she said she was busy or something, and he said, oh, well, I'll make the time to meet you again, and I'll miss a lecture. So she thought, oh, well, he's not a very good student, because she was like an A student, and so they nearly didn't have a second meetup. Now, we know what sign of the zodiac Mark Zuckerberg is. So he's definitely a sun sign Taurus with moon in Scorpio, whilst Priscilla is a sun sign Pisces with a Scorpio ascendant of 25 degrees. And I thought to myself, if you're meeting somebody at a party, or where I think they're in a queue for the toilet, which is funny actually. I read that and that did make me giggle, because my first boyfriend, I met him in a queue for the toilet. We were standing on the stairs, waiting to use the one and only loo in this particular party. Don't ask me where the party was. I think it was in Ealing. And we got chatting, so we stood on the stairs, and and then we found out while we were standing on the stairs that we were born on the same day. So it was saying sign of the zodiac. Not that I was even that much into astrology then. And so then that was a cause for celebration. Oh, we're sort of twins. We're both born on the same day. He was born in a different year. But anyway, I just sort of thought about how I'd met him. And when you meet people face to face, I mean, I don't even know why we talked about birthdays, can't remember. But in Priscilla and Mark's case, you wouldn't even get chatting with someone if your ascendant wasn't compatible with the other person's ascendant. And then I thought about how difficult it is to find out anything personal about Mark Zuckerberg, one of which is his birth certificate has never been published, which I think is crazy when you think about all the fuss that was made with Donald Trump and Barack Obama, and eventually his birth certificate was published. Somebody found it somewhere. And I thought, oh, well, she's got a Scorpio ascendant. I wonder what his chart would look like if we constructed it, if I constructed it with him having a Scorpio ascendant as well. And I looked back at some old videos of him talking. So I'm just telling you the background information here before I get into the chart. I looked at some old sort of interviews that were made of him as he sort of started Facebook up and stuff. And he's got this sort of funny look about him that he sort of always looks sort of shocked like that. There's loads of photographs of him sort of looking like that. You know, he's not. He definitely hasn't got a fire sign ascendant. I would really be surprised if it turned out that he got a fire sign ascendant. He just doesn't have that initial first off meeting sort of like which a fire sign ascendant normally has, is they're sort of right in there with you. And an air sign ascendant, I was sort of tossing up the idea that when he was at university, he set up this Facebook thing. I think it was called Face Something Else to start with. And it was created so that he could find women to date. The idea being that you'd put all your details on there and then he'd weigh the person up and you could tick and like the person. And I just thought, well, that's somebody that's a bit sort of relationship obsessed. So he's possibly then got a Libra ascendant, because into relationships and stuff. And I thought, well, no, actually, because he didn't get married that early. So anyway, I've plumped for a Scorpio ascendant. I don't think he's got an earth sign ascendant. I say he could have a Libra ascendant, because I'm weighing up, how his life has turned out. That his original concept was that he was going to find somebody to date, and that'd have to be either Sun in the 7th or a Libra ascendant. I thought, well, there's no way he could have been chatted up. Oh, sorry, he was doing the chatting up of Priscilla. If he'd got a Libra ascendant, she's got a Scorpio ascendant, she would have been nowhere near him. And normally speaking, Scorpio ascendant people feel reassured meeting other Scorpio ascendant people. Now, don't get me wrong, these people aren't Scorpios, this is the ascendant. So anyway, I'm going to be using the chart of him being born on the 14th of May 1984. And I've just plumped for 8 p.m. because that gives him ascendant of 24 degrees and her ascendant's 25 degrees. I just thought, there must have been something that made them hit it off. There has to be a connection. Now, when I looked back years later, because my first boyfriend, I wasn't into astrology at all, and it took a long time for me to find out. I think, actually, I didn't find out until after we'd finished what his ascendant sign was. And he had a Libra ascendant, I've got a Leo ascendant. So those two ascendant signs are compatible. So no two ways about it. That's what draws people together, is the ascendant sign. So here we go. We've got Mark Zuckerberg, definitely Sun, Taurus, Moon, Scorpio, Mercury in Aries, Venus in Taurus, Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter in Capricorn, Saturn in Scorpio, Uranus in Sagittarius, Neptune in Capricorn, 0 degrees, Pluto in Scorpio, 0 degrees, and the true node is 6 degrees Gemini. Now that doesn't change regardless of what time of day you're born. Okay, so I'll put the charts up obviously on the show notes, and you have to go over to Libsyn to see them because nowhere else seems to be able to. So I apologise profusely if you're listening on YouTube. I've had a number of people comment, I'm really sorry, there's no way for me to add the charts in. You've got to go to, let me give you the address for the millionth time. To be able to see the charts, you need to go to Astromary, ASTROMARY.libsyn.com, and if you just put that in, that'll bring up the latest episode. If you need to go back, because there's been other episodes since then, you could just, they're all listed on that first page. There's quite a few that get listed, I think something like 5 or 6. If you need earlier episode numbers, just stick the numbers in the box, and today we're episode number 426. So you can find the charts on there. So if we're giving Mark Zuckerberg a Scorpio ascendant for 8 p.m, it wasn't that random, me choosing this. I've explained why I've chosen it. Then the Moon and Mars are conjunct, and they're also conjunct to Saturn. So Moon's conjunct to Saturn, yeah. And they're all located in the 12th house, along with Pluto. And there's a lot of oppositions, and he's got a seesaw chart, and he's got 3 planets in opposition to 7 planets, not in direct opposition, but the Sun is opposition to the Moon, the Sun is opposition to Mars, the Moon is opposition to Venus, the Moon is conjunct, which is going to be anyway, but because I've made him later in the day, and the chart that they've got on Astro Databank, they've done 12 o'clock lunchtime, fair enough, but I think he's probably born later in the day. We'll never know unless his birth chart's ever published. Uranus is opposition to Chiron. I think that's all the oppositions. Mercury's opposition to Pluto. I mean, Mercury is definitely opposition Pluto, isn't it? So we've got somebody who will swing, because the seesaw is swing. 1 minute saying they're not going to do something, and the next minute they are doing it because of peer pressure or people not liking it or whatever. And we'll come on to Priscilla in a minute. So that's his natal chart. Now, I have also been investigating for you to save you having to do it. Aren't I kind to you? His dad. Now, I'm using whole sign for his dad. And we've got the date of birth is the 21st of June 1954. And he's born in New York City. And that date, the Sun is just changing sign from Gemini into Cancer, and I thought there's absolutely no way, really no way that man could possibly be a Gemini, because he's been in the same job the whole of his life. He's actually a dentist, and there isn't a lot of information about him. Like, he doesn't hit the news that much, and so I thought, and he's been in that same job. It'd be very, very rare, like super rare, for a Gemini to be in exactly the same job in the same location doing the same thing for the whole of their career. It's very, very unlikely that he's a Gemini. So I've chosen 10 p.m. I'm using whole sign. If it was equal house, the ascendant would be Capricorn at that point. Well, the ascendant's Capricorn anyway, even in whole sign. And they're born, so this is dad, Edward Zuckerberg, is born with the Sun conjunct Jupiter, and the Sun and Moon are in trine, and he has a Moon in Pisces. Now, I've read some interviews with him, and he said that people sort of asked him, this is not recently, these interviews, were sort of asking, how did you manage to have a child that was so successful? But obviously, when his wife gave birth to the baby, there'd be no knowing how successful that person is. And you have to remember that success comes from the person themselves, lucky breaks, being in the right place at the right time, getting the funding, somebody knowing somebody else. It's a whole series of things. But to be one of the 3 richest people in the whole of US now, which is what he is now, I don't think relates that much to his childhood and his siblings. And I know his sister's a Pisces, because for a short amount of time I was following her on Twitter back in the day. But the Mrs. Mark Zuckerberg's sister, one of his sisters, is a Pisces. And Daddy is probably a Cancer, but Daddy's definitely got Moon in Pisces, okay? And Dad's got quite a cluster. He's got Sun conjunct Jupiter, which is in Cancer. He's got Mercury in Cancer, and he's got Uranus in Cancer, and his Mars is retrograde 3 degrees into Capricorn, whilst Mars, is that right? Yes, Mark also has Mars retrograde. In fact, he's got Mars retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Neptune retrograde, and Pluto retrograde. He's got his, that's interesting. So his planets that form his seesaw, this is Mark Zuckerberg we'll talk about now, the planets that form his seesaw that are opposite the other side of the chart to his sun sign, they're all retrograde except for the moon. So this is, there was an interview with his dad, and his dad said something like, when he decides to do something, he wants a strong argument for doing it. It sounds as if when he was little, he was quite, I don't know what the word is, sort of determined, not really wanting to take instruction from other people, wanting to do his own thing. He didn't get his degree at Harvard. Priscilla did, because Facebook took off. So we got Daddy's chart, which I'll put up. Daddy's Sun Cancer, Moon Pisces, Mercury Cancer, Venus Leo, Mars Capricorn, Jupiter Cancer, Saturn Scorpio, Uranus Cancer, Neptune Libra, Pluto Leo. And there's a little 4 planets in Cancer, and everything else is 2s or 1s. Okay, so that's Daddy, and Daddy's got a grand trine. But if Daddy is a Cancer, then just the fact that he's given birth and he's got kids will keep him happy, so to speak. I didn't look at his wife. I didn't look at Mark Zuckerberg's mother. I only got the year of birth, and I gave up searching at that point. Okay, so we have got some dates of when some things happened. I think it's quite incredible how things can happen and the exact dates of them just aren't recorded. They're just on Wikipedia, just put the year that the thing happened. Surely somebody must know the exact date for it. But anyway, this podcast never happened, never gone into any further detail. So we have got, the internet has got the date that he launches Facebook. So this is Mark Zuckerberg we're talking about now. So let me just go back to his Wikipedia page. Where's he gone? So that's the filings. So 1 minute. So Wikipedia says he was born on the 14th of May 1984 in White Plains, New York, to psychiatrist Karen Nee Kempner and dentist Edward Zuckerberg. He and his 3 sisters, Ariel, Randy and Donna, I think it must have been Randy I was following, were raised in a Reformed Jewish household in Dobbs Ferry, New York. Their great-grandparents were immigrants from Australia, Germany and Poland. Zuckerberg initially attended Ardsley High School before transferring to Phillips Exeter Academy. He was captain of the fencing team. He learned computer programming in his childhood. About the age of 11, he created Zucknet, a program that allowed computers at the family home and his father's dental office to communicate with each other. Once said, as some kids played computer games, Mark created them. So I don't know who that's quoting from. The New Yorker once said to Zuckerberg, yeah. While still in high school, he attended Mercy College, taking a graduate computer course on Thursday evenings. So he began classes in Harvard. He was a programming prodigy. In January 2004, Zuckerberg began writing code for a new website. On February the 4th, 2004, Zuckerberg launched The Facebook, originally located at thefacebook.com in partnership with his roommates Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCollum, Dustin Moskovich and Chris Hughes. One wonders if he had to pay them off. I think he did. So we've got that date, the 4th of February 2004. So I've done the transits for that, and now this might be because I jiggled the chart around, but I chose the time of the chart before I then looked at these other dates. So we've got on the 4th of February 2004, Jupiter is transiting over his MC. So let's assume that his chart's correct, just for the purposes. So just, what's that word? Just play along with me for a second on this. We'll assume I've got the right time until anybody tells me otherwise. Jupiter's transiting through the sign of Virgo, and with this fictitious chart that I've created that gives him his MC is 7 degrees, and transiting Jupiter is 17 degrees and 24 minutes, and it's retrograde. So when he launches it, and this is a man that's born with natal Jupiter retrograde, isn't going to be that bothered about those types of planets retrograding because he's born with them. And he launches this, what do they call it? Not Facebook. It was originally launched as, yes, the Facebook. And the idea being that it was a photo directory of all the students that were in the uni that he was at. The moon's in Cancer, Saturn's in Cancer, Pluto is in Saggy, nothing else is conjuncting, but the Sun and Neptune are conjunct, and the Sun is 14 degrees and Neptune is 12 degrees. They're not forming anything because it's out of orb, so they're not even squaring. But look, the North Node, the transiting North Node, is directly conjunct to his natal Venus, which is 15 degrees, and the true node is now 16, so it's within orb, and transiting Mars is 0 degrees to Taurus, and his Mercury is 29 degrees Aries and 38 minutes. So I don't know if Mars goes retrograde later on. Transiting Saturn is retrograde. So we've got 2 retrograde planets, Jupiter and Saturn. Like normally, if you launch something and you told me, I'm going to do it during a Jupiter and Saturn retrograde, I'd go, ooh, can you wait until they're out of retrograde? But he's born with that, so bumf, makes no difference to him. It's quite incredible how all of his planets that are on the one side of his chart that form his seesaw, apart from the moon, because the moon can't go retrograde, are all retrograde, whilst the stuff he's got on the other side of his chart isn't. So this is definitely a person that has swings between the two things, and since those are all outer planets, because his personal planets, so the Sun, Venus, Mercury aren't retrograde, okay, so the only ones he's got that aren't, and everything else is, there's probably a person that's going to feel like they're an alien. Everybody else is doing different stuff and he's not going to see it like that. So you can see why I got into computers. The other thing I was tossing up when I was thinking of times he was born is that it's possible could have an Aquarius ascendant since he's so into computers, but that would then make his sun be in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th house. I just thought, I don't know, that didn't seem to fit. Okay, so that's the date that Facebook, the facebook.com, the website launches. Okay. And then, so he eventually meets Priscilla at university. They get married. And the next, is it the day after? Because I'm skipping forwards way into the future now. It is on the 18th of May, Facebook goes public, and on the 19th of May, they get married. So what's the difference between the charts? The moon is in Aries on the day that Facebook goes public, and then the moon is in Taurus on the day that he got married. And you think, I wonder if he had an astrologer help him with that. Now, retrogrades, we've got Venus retrograding, which he doesn't natally have the day that Facebook goes public. And so he's born on the 14th of May, and this is a little while after his birthday. And those transits for Priscilla, because she's got, the sun is 5 degrees in Pisces, transiting Neptune is 3 degrees. Yeah, so she got married under a Neptune transit. She would have been to the fuzz. The other major transit, but I don't know if this is actually the case, but Mars is now, so this is the date that he gets married, and also the day before is the Facebook goes public. Mars is now near to his MC, so transiting Mars is 9 degrees. Is that right? Yeah, 9 degrees Virgo, and his MC at this time of day is 7, but that's going to alter a bit. But Jupiter is now in the sign of Taurus, and that's a lucky planet, so Buff did the right thing there. Going to do something marvellous. I think Pluto's retrograde. Yeah, so the two retrograde planets are Venus and Pluto. And Pluto, so transiting Pluto is 9 degrees Capricorn. His natal Jupiter is 12 degrees, so, and it's retrograde. So Pluto transiting retrograde is getting very near to his Jupiter retrograde. And with a 8 p.m. birth time, we've got Neptune and Jupiter in the second house. So if he was born with that, you go, oh, you've got that's quite a lucky thing to have Jupiter in the second. Neptune's a bit sort of fuzzy, but okay, these are we're just playing with charts today. We're doing chart play. The other date I've got, which I thought surely should show up in his chart, when he had to give a testimony to the Senate, is that right? And they were asking about, the UK asked him over, and he never arrived. Because you've got to use reasonably strong dates to be able to determine whether or not you got the chart right or what might be going on with the person. So on April the 10th and the 11th, 2018, Zuckerberg testified before the United States Senate Committee on Commerce, Science and Transportation regarding the usage of personal data by Facebook in relation to the Facebook Cambridge Analytica data scandal. Okay, so that was a big thing. So we've got... I don't think I've done the 10th and 11th. I think I've just done what have I done? I've done the 10th, so the moon's only going to shift a bit. But on that date, Mercury's retrograde, which he hasn't got natally, Jupiter's retrograde, which he does, and Jupiter's retrograding in the sign of Scorpio right on his ascendant, the imaginary ascendant that I've just created for the purpose of this podcast. So I would have thought he can manage during outer planetary retrogrades, but probably not so well with Mercury retrograde because he hasn't got it. Okay, but you'll see the chart because I've stuffed it up there, where the planets are. Mars and Saturn are on his natal Jupiter, so it must have cost him a couple of bob to even go to court. To go to the Senate and and do the thing. Venus is returning, so Venus is in the sign of Taurus, but whether or not it affected him financially, we'll never know. Uranus is 28 degrees Aries and his Mercury is 29 degrees, so Uranus is right on his Mercury at that point in time. So even if we ignore the ascendant and we just look at transits, it has got quite a whack to it. Transiting Saturn on your natal Jupiter is never a happy time, either way round. So if transiting Jupiter goes past your Saturn, it definitely is dark night of the soul, either way round. But I personally think transiting Saturn conjunct natal Jupiter is more of a dark night of the soul than the other way round, but it's never a particularly happy time. Now, I haven't done the dates for when the kiddies were born, because this podcast had gone on for absolutely ever. But I was just that's my argument for him possibly having a Scorpio ascendant. Like, why would he even have got chatting to someone? Because if you're with somebody with a Scorpio ascendant, they're not going to be like somebody with a Leo ascendant like myself. They're not going to be, in the centre of the dance floor, put it that way. And if her that information is taken off a birth certificate, so it's going to be reasonably accurate. She's got Sun, and this is Priscilla now, she's got Sun in the 4th, so the home roots family is important for her. She's got 3 planets in the 5th. Yes, she did have 3 children, but you can't equate that. She apparently had some miscarriages before. Pluto's in the 12th, so they could possibly both have Pluto in the 12th. So there'll be, if you were to meet somebody that had that same ascendant as yourself with some planets that are in the same places, there is going to be a sense of connection, possibly. There's 1 year difference between them because he's born in May 84, she's born in February 85. So yeah, that's what I think about him. I'm not going to tell you what I think about him, but that's what we'll be covering today. So we've been talking about Mark Zuckerberg, the one of the 3 most rich people, most rich or richest, and it's a ridiculous. Let me just go back to that again because I read that and I thought I'm going to have to read that again. So, combined worth of $920 billion. These three men have more wealth than 170 million people. And I should point out that this should tell you exactly where we're going as a nation. These 3 men have just become $232 billion richer since Trump was elected, and in just 2 weeks under Trump, their wealth has exploded by $232 billion. By the way, Bernie Sanders is a Libra, so he's balanced that one up. Anyway, so I hope you have, this isn't a political episode, by the way, it's just trying to understand someone's chart. So I hope you have a fab week. If you've got a Scorpio ascendant and you're married to somebody else with a Scorpio ascendant, then do get in touch. And I do know someone that has got Sun in Taurus and Moon in Scorpio, and I've noticed that there's some similarities with how they live their life. That Moon in Scorpio, so even if Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have a Scorpio ascendant, the fact that he's got Moon in Scorpios clustered there with all those other Scorpio planets, he's not going to be very forthcoming about quite a lot of different things, which is why it is very, very tricky to find any deep information about him. And he's been sued zillions of times. And also when you're that rich, because I have done readings for people that are very rich, just because you've got that amount of money doesn't mean to say that all your problems stop. They don't, you just get different problems. And I would never, ever, ever want to have even an ounce of the amount of money that's got. That's not, I'd hate to be that rich. I'd rather stay on my middle income levels. Thank you very much. Anyway, so I hope you have a fab week, and I'll be back next week. Bye-bye now.